We never forget that tragic Tuesday morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for attending this annual community gathering to honor the memories of those who suffered and for those that perished on September 11th, 2001. As a symbol of that remembrance, to my right, courtesy of the Ocoee Fire Department, is an actual steel beam from the World Trade Center, New York City. I now, ladies and gentlemen, ask you to please stand for the presentation of colors by today's Joint Honor Guard, followed by the singing of the National Anthem by Oscar Negron of the Orange County Fire Rescue Department, followed by the lighting of the 9/11 Remembrance Candle and an invocation by Orlando Police Department Chaplain Tracy Herman.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes in bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming. In the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Pray. Holy God, we thank you for an opportunity such as this to come together for a time of remembrance, honor, and thanksgiving. It is a day we have promised as a nation to never forget. As painful as today is in our history, we say thank you for giving us the grace to pass through the most painful of times, the strength to endure what seems too much to endure, and the lessons we have learned along the way. Today is also a day to honor those that have committed themselves to a profession that asks them to risk their lives and make daily sacrifices so that we can be safe, protected, and cared for in our times of need. The law enforcement, firefighters, and EMS around Central Florida never know what their next call will ask of them, and yet they don't hesitate to respond. Thank you, Father God, for them, and thank you for their families that sacrifice right along with them. We ask, God, that you protect them, heal the heavy burdens they carry, honor and praise. Amen.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of CFHLA and the CFHLA Security and Safety Council, allow me to officially welcome you to our 2018 Patriot Day Breakfast. We gathered today to both remember the events of September 11th and
Central Florida Hotel and Lodging Association and the Patriot Day Breakfast Committee for all your efforts to put this together this morning. Thank you to our customers. We appreciate the wonderful morning.
Thank you, Greg. Additionally, please allow me to thank our Hero Table sponsors that are featured on the back page of the program and on our screens. These businesses have donated tables for today's honorees and our first responders. It is now my privilege to officially welcome our elected and community leaders. As I call each name, may I invite that individual to please stand and to remain standing so that we may collectively acknowledge these professionals at the conclusion of all introductions. From the town of Windermere, Mayor Gary Bruin. The Orange County Supervisor of Elections, Bill Cowles. The Orange County Sheriff, Jerry Demings. U.S. Congresswoman, 10th Congressional District, Val Demings. Osceola County Sheriff, Russ Gibson. Orange County Mayor, Teresa Jacobs. State Representative, District 42, Mike LaRosa. Seminole County Sheriff, Dennis Lemma. Orange County Commissioner, District 2, Rod Love. State Representative, District 47, Mike Miller. State Representative, District 44, Bobby Oshevsky. The Orange County Tax Collector, Scott Randolph. State Representative, District 49, Carlos Smith. U.S. Congressman, Florida's 9th Congressional District, Darren Soto. City of Orlando Commissioner, District 3, Robert Stewart. State Senator, District 15, Victor Torres. Orange County Commissioner, District 1, Betsy Vanderlei. And now our community leaders, former Orange County Mayor Richard Crotty. Orange County Fire Rescue Department Chief Otto Drozd. Matt McCrew, Winter Garden Fire Rescue Department Chief. Ocoee Fire Department Chief John Miller. Orlando Police Department Chief John Mina. Chief of Staff, Orange County Mayor Graciela Noriega Jacoby. Seminole County Fire Rescue Chief Mark Oakes. Windermere Police Department Chief David Ogden. St. Cloud Fire Rescue Chief Joseph Silvestris. Osceola County Fire Rescue Chief Robert Sorensen. Roderick Williams, City of Orlando Fire Chief. Ladies and gentlemen, may we now collectively recognize and thank these Central Florida leaders. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure all of us remember where we were this time last year. Regretfully, we were not gathering for a September 11th Remembrance Breakfast because we had a visitor. And although this community welcomes 72 million visitors on an...
Good morning and welcome. It is unbelievable to think that 17 years have passed since the morning of September 11th, 2001. We should never forget the images of the North Tower of the World Trade Center on fire after being struck by American Airlines Flight 11. We should remember hoping that it was just a terrible aviation accident. We should never forget seeing American Airlines Flight 175 come into the picture in slow motion as it plowed and disappeared into the South Tower, knowing that we were under attack. We should never forget the gaping hole left in our Pentagon by American Airlines Flight 77. We should never forget United Flight 93 that crashed into a field in rural Pennsylvania. At the same time, we should celebrate the bravery of our brothers and sisters on United Flight 93, knowing that America was under attack and choosing to act in order to protect our country. We should celebrate the courage, compassion, and heroism displayed by the 343 firefighters and 80 police officers who rushed into those burning buildings to save the lives of the innocent, knowing theirs would be lost. We should celebrate the true American spirit that manifested itself on September 11th, 2001, where the horrific acts of the few were surpassed by all time by the heroic acts of the many. We should celebrate that an act of terrorism designed to tear us apart united us like never before. We should celebrate in the knowledge that firefighters, police officers, and armed service personnel stand ready to protect the lives, property, and liberty of our people. We should celebrate in the knowledge that the same type of courage and compassion was displayed locally on June 12, 2016, at the Pulse nightclub. We should be heartened by the knowledge that when this community is threatened, as it was last year by Hurricane Irma, we all will answer the call. As I speak, firefighters from across Central Florida are preparing to go aid our neighbors in North Carolina who lay in the path of Hurricane Florence. We should celebrate that as Americans, we are people made up from all corners of the earth. We are diverse, we are determined, we are strong. For those that would cause us harm, they should never forget that if one of us would lose our life protecting our liberty, there will be others to take our place until our way of life is secured. We should never forget 9/11. Let anyone who would wish us ill, let no one make the mistake. We are not a country merely of symbols. Destroying our World Trade Center only served to strengthen our resolve. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us ill or well, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and success of our liberty. Those words were spoken by John F. Kennedy, and they are appropriate today as they were the day that he spoke them. Be heartened in the knowledge that from this Patriots' Day and for all those that will follow, we will remember our fallen brothers and sisters, and we will celebrate the heroic acts of our public safety personnel. I'd like to thank the CFHLA for their continued support of our public safety personnel. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, our second honorary chairperson for this year, State Representative, District 42, Mike LaRosa.
Good morning. It's an honor to be with each of you today as we remember that fateful day in September 2001. I'll never forget the initial shock of the event itself. I think we can all recall exactly where we were and what we were doing that day. After 9/11, I think we all look at our nation and this world a bit differently. For me, I was a young college student just experiencing some of life's challenges. As the tragic events unfolded, the morning the news coverage started, it all started to roll out. It was clear that this was becoming our generation's awakening moments. I remember seeing the faces, some bloody, some bruised, faces of concern, faces of confusion. But as the minutes that seemed like hours rolled on, those faces were replaced with faces of courage, faces of determination. Those were the faces of our first responders. On that fateful day, when our enemies tried to knock us down, we quickly realized and learned that evil is real. But on that same day, we learned that courage is also. As everyone was running out of harm's way in both the World Trade Center in New York and in the Pentagon near D.C., our first responders were running in. Thousands of lives were lost that day, but thousands were also saved due to the selfless courage of those donning the uniform, those willing to do whatever they had to do to save and protect their neighbors. In the 17 years since 9/11, our country has been tested many times by evil, including right here in our own backyard at the Pulse nightclub just 2.5 years ago. And in every event, it's been faced with fearless courage of those willing to hold the front line and protect us. Our first responders stand ready to take action whenever their number is called. There are many key roles in playing and building a strong community. And I want to take a special time to say thank you to CFHLA and its members as they continue to host this Patriots Day Breakfast to honor those who are truly the heartbeat of all of our communities. I'm deeply humbled to be able to spend a few minutes with you this morning. May God continue to bless us all. May God bless the beloved fallen who have ultimately paid the sacrifice to protect and build their communities. May God bless everyone here today and those community patriots that we see every day on the front line protecting us. And may God continue to bless our great country and our precious state. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'd like to introduce today's Master of Ceremonies from West 2 News for the 5th consecutive year, Jim Payne.
Thank you, Rich. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you. Missed you last year, but all is well this year, at least for us here in Central Florida. I actually worked in Raleigh for 8.5 years before moving here almost 2 decades ago, and this hurricane that is bearing down on those people is bad news. It's bigger and more powerful than anything that has ever come that way, and that's a state that is really used to dealing with hurricanes. Chief Droz talked about the response from emergency workers, personnel, police, firefighters, church groups are there. There's all kinds of help that is being positioned. Power crews are stationed in Charlotte and to the north in Virginia. So they're as prepared as they can be, and a lot of those lessons they learned here in Central Florida from people like you. So if you would, if prayer is part of your lifestyle, remember the people in the Carolinas. It's going to be a rough few days. Welcome back again to the 2018 Patriot Day Breakfast as we honor American heroes and remember the tragic events of September 11th, 2001. Fred Rogers once said, Mr. Rogers, he of Rollins College, When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, "Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping." This is a time when we need positive stories. We need to know about people who care and who help. We find hope in people who help and care. And we find hope in people like you. So keep fighting the good fight. As previously stated, we will start today's program by recognizing our honorees from 2006 current assignment. Sergeant Dennis Smith will be accepting the award on his behalf. Today's third 2017 Patriot Day awardees are Ocoee Police Department Patrol Officer Brian Harris and Windermere Police Department Patrol Officer Robbie Harrison, who are receiving a joint award for heroism. Honor to welcome to the stage Seth Clayton, who will be accepting the Heroism Law Enforcement Award on behalf of Orlando Police Lieutenant Deborah Clayton. Ladies and gentlemen, these are your 2017 Patriot Day honorees. Another round of applause, please. For your information, during today's breakfast, a scrolling slideshow entitled "We Shall Remember You by Name" will be displayed. This visual memorial includes the names of all September 11th victims. At this time, I would like to invite you to introduce yourself and to others at your table as we finish up breakfast, and we'll continue with our program in just a few minutes from now. Ladies and gentlemen, in about a minute from now, we're going to pause for a moment of silence to remember the crucial moment that the North Tower was struck by American Airlines Flight 11. So if you would please retake your seats. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us pause for a moment of quiet reflection to observe and remember the lives lost on September 11th, 2001. Thank you all. As a New York native, today's keynote presenter began his career in law enforcement in 1985. It was during his time with the New York City Police Department that the tragic events of September 11th occurred. In 2001, he was requested by the President of the United States to visit the White House to receive presidential recognition for the actions he took that day to save lives. Once again, in 2004, he was invited to visit the Oval Office to stand by the president's side as he addressed the nation on the anniversary of September 11th. In 2005, our speaker retired from the New York City Police Department and relocated to Florida with his wife and 2 daughters. He is currently employed with a CFHLA member, East Coast Logistics and Security. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage today's keynote speaker, Marvin Vasquez.
Good morning, everyone. Oof, deep breath on this one. I first want to start off by thanking the CFLA for hosting this. And I want to thank all of you for taking the opportunity to come here on this day. You know, at the time that 9/11 occurred, I was a 16 or 17-year veteran of the New York City Police Department. And prior to that, I really figured I've seen it all. I've done it all in 17 years in New York City. In some places, that's a lifetime. But on that morning, and something that I'll always remember about that morning, it was probably the most picturesque, beautiful day that I can even think of. And I was assigned around the trade towers that morning at about 6 in the morning. I started my tour. As we went on through the morning, I get a radio transmission that a plane has hit the towers. Now, if there's anybody here from New Jersey, I don't want to insult you. It's a little running joke between New York and New Jersey, because the minute I heard that a plane had hit the towers, I thought, okay, well, some doofus from Jersey who does not know how to operate a Cessna plowed it into the towers. So I raced there. I raced there as fast as I could, as first responders do. I brought my vehicle to a screeching halt in front of Tower 1. And as I'm looking at Tower 1, I get out of the vehicle, I go to my trunk, put on my riot helmet, lift my visor, and I look up. And just when I had thought in 16, 17 years of law enforcement, I thought I've seen it all, I see people carefully, gingerly helping each other on the ledge to avoid all the internal smoke as a result of all the fuel from the airplanes. They're helping each other on the ledge to try to get some air. And just when I thought I've seen it all as a police officer, I see them embrace each other, hold hands, and jump. And I remember, while I was seeing this, I said, God, please take them on the way down so that they don't hurt when they hit the floor, please. And then I do remember saying out loud, in uniform, I said, God, what did we do to anger you so much? And I stood there and was consumed, and a lot of first responders know that, with guilt, because I'm thinking to myself, you're a police officer. You're a member of the NYPD, the largest police department in the world. You're just standing there and watching this carnage. Do something. So there was a lot of guilt. There was a lot of guilt involved. I tried to do the best I could to save as many as I could. A lot of my colleagues went in there. 1, 2. Third time they didn't come out. And I just kept going. I lost a lot of friends. And even to this day, today, I'm continuing to lose more friends. This past Sunday, there was an article in USA Today, and the numbers were about right. Over 10,000, mostly first responders, have been diagnosed with cancer from the toxins and everything we took in that day. In 17 years, I don't think a week or a month has passed by where I haven't been called and told that another one of my colleagues has passed away. Close to 10,000, and we will continue to die as time goes on. But you know what? This is what makes first responders, law enforcement officers, firefighters very special. Because we didn't take on this profession for the money. If we did, the joke is on us, because the money's not there. We wanted to serve something bigger than we are. We wanted to make a difference in life. And we were willing to sacrifice ourselves, our families, for strangers, and ask for nothing in return. A lot of my colleagues that went in there did not get the opportunity to reach out to their families before they went there. A lot of my colleagues whose families didn't hear from them for days because of the lack of communication, didn't know whether they were dead or alive. When we look at this day, and when we look at every day, we need to honor our first responders, our firefighters, police officers, paramedics, EMTs, EMS, every single day, because they, along with our military, put their lives on the line for nothing. No money. No money. They do it because they want to serve. They do it because they want to do something that's bigger than they are. That morning, with all the people I tried to help, I just kept thinking that I hope God is happy with me. And I made a commitment that day, that very day, I made a commitment that if I did survive, I would make sure that I took every opportunity I could to talk to people about 9/11, to spread the word, because you know what's the biggest fear that I've always had, and I have it to this day, and so do my colleagues, that this will be treated the same way we've treated Pearl Harbor, that we will forget, because we are blessed as Americans, but we are spoiled. We are spoiled. And the biggest fear, the biggest tribute I can ask of all of you, if you want to honor us and you want to honor law enforcement, don't treat this day like any other day. There were a lot of great people that died that day. The stories are endless. Police Officer John Perry. Police Officer John Perry was in the retirement office, turned in his shield, turned in his gun. He was going to start a new career as an attorney. When the first plane hit, he grabbed everything and went out there and didn't make it. A lot of first responders know what it's like to suffer survivor's guilt. That was something that even to this day I struggle with, very much so. And in my over 20-year career of law enforcement, the toughest decision I ever made was not whether or not to take somebody's life to save my own or someone else's, because I'll let God settle that. The toughest decision I ever made as a police officer was one day after a year of being there every single day at the pile for 17 hours, 18 hours a day, going home and waking up one day and looking at that guy in the mirror and saying, I can't take it anymore. I need help. And I walked into a doctor's office and asked for help. Law enforcement officers know what that's like, because guess what? Law enforcement officers and first responders, we don't ask for help. We'll take a bullet before we ask for help. Also, being Hispanic, that's also against the culture and the stigma. But I believe to this day that maybe that was God's way of helping me to deal with what happened. And even to this day, when I see the culture sometimes that you see on the news where law enforcement is villainized or portrayed as the bad guy, it breaks my heart, because I said, yeah, we did forget. I grew up in the South Bronx, not in the Bronx, in the South Bronx. And if you know anything about the South Bronx, 2 presidents of the United States identified that as the poorest place you could live. The poorest place you could live. That's where I grew up. From 16 and a half to 17 and a half years old, I was homeless. And I lived in the street. A secret I kept from the school, otherwise I'd be returned back home where I didn't want to go. And I struggled, and I don't know how I did it, and the only thing I can say is through God's intervention. I graduated from high school. And I got my first job working in a bank. Probably made a week $275 a week. But that allowed me to get a studio apartment that was probably the size of a closet. But you know what? It had a lock, it had a door, and it was mine. And then in 1985, I entered into law enforcement. I and my colleagues tried to do the very best that we could each and every day. I never knew, just like all these law enforcement officers here and first responders know, that when you get up in the morning to go to work, you have no clue whether or not you're going to come home. You have no clue. God knows, but you don't know. But that doesn't stop you. That didn't stop me. That didn't stop us. That's the sacrifice that we make each and every day. And one of the things that the public has to understand, we hurt, we cry, we feel. You don't just thank a first responder on September 11th. You thank him every day, because they're the line between sanity and insanity. Without them, if anybody's ever seen that movie, The Purge, you know what I'm talking about. I'm very prejudiced when it comes to law enforcement and first responders because, yeah, they are special more than anybody else and will continue to be. And as long as God gives me the opportunity to pass this word on to the public and everybody else, I'm going to continue to spread the word of 9/11 because there were so many wonderful, wonderful people. It was also in the Sunday paper that 10,000 have already been diagnosed and more. So our struggle is not over. Our struggle continues, and that's the price we pay. And when God decides it's my time, it's going to be. But in the meantime, I'm going to do everything I can to support our first responders, support our military, support the people that put their lives on the line every single day. People say that I've paid my dues, but I'm still paying, and that's okay. I'll still pay. Look after each other. Support your first responders. Support this country. Support the United States of America. Because if not, we're going to be right back into the rut. The same rut that we are in with Pearl Harbor and all the wonderful people and the brave people that died that day. Okay. So it's funny because that day when I was there, somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, do you know who just died?" I said, "What do you mean, who just died?" They said, "Father Michael Judd died." Now, just to give a little background for those that aren't in law enforcement, whenever there's any kind of large mass tragedy, as part of the investigation process, it's important to chronicle the events by the casualties, when the first death occurred and on. And Father Michael Judd used to come to my precinct every morning at 6 in the morning, come with a joke, come with a good word, always a good sense of humor. And when I heard that Father Michael Judd had died in uniform, in the middle of everything, I started to cry. And I cried. And I asked the person that told me, why did Father Michael Judd have to die? Why? And the answer he gave me made me feel so warm, so good. He says, "Marvin, Father Michael Judd had to die first because God needed somebody up there to show everybody else the way." And I can see Father Michael Judd there with a smile and a joke, opening up his arms and saying, "Come on in and rest. You've done your job." Don't ever forget people like Father Michael Judd, John Perry, 343 firefighters, 78 law enforcement. And don't ever forget that to this day, they're still passing away. God bless our first responders. God bless our troops. And God bless the United States. Thank you.
Marvin, thank you for sharing your story and making it so personal and reaching out and touching everybody in the room today. Before we officially recognize the 2018 Patriot Day honorees, I would like to take a moment to recognize the nearly 200 Central Florida first responders that are in attendance this morning. I ask that all EMS, fire rescue, law enforcement, and security personnel, including police and fire chiefs, please stand as we express our sincere appreciation for your dedication to our community and everybody who lives here. At this time, I'd like to reinvite Mr. Marvin Vasquez, Rich Maladecki, and today's honorary co-chairman, Chief Otto Droz, and Representative Mike LaRosa to join me on stage to assist with the awards presentations. The CFHLA Patriot Day Awards honor local Central Florida heroes for going above and beyond the call of duty in their respective areas of service. We will begin with the Heroism Award in Fire Rescue EMS. Today we honor Lieutenant Jason McNally from the Orange County Fire Rescue Department. In the early morning hours of March 16th, while commuting to work on the 528, Lieutenant McNally witnessed a crash involving a car that burst into flames. Noticing the driver was pinned in the burning car, Lieutenant McNally quickly slid across the hood of the car and began prying the door open in an attempt to rescue that person. Unknown to the lieutenant, the vehicle was located on a bridge that spanned the St. Johns River. As he was attempting to rescue the driver, he fell backward over the bridge, roughly 30 feet into the water below. Moments later, a bystander, also in an attempt to rescue the driver, fell into the river. Lieutenant McNally assisted the civilian to dry land and then made his way back to the scene. Upon arrival, he saw that the driver had been pulled from the car and the car was safely moved off of the roadway. Performing these actions under adverse conditions could have resulted in death or injury. Today, it is my honor to recognize Lieutenant McNally with the Heroism Award for Fire Rescue EMS for his commendable actions that morning.
Shouldn't I get into this? Sure.
Our second award is for heroism in law enforcement. This award is being presented to Corporal Ray Monreal and Master Deputy Stephen Williams of the Orange County Sheriff's Office. In October of 2017, Corporal Monreal and Master Deputy Williams responded to a vehicle accident. Upon arrival, they witnessed several bystanders near a retention pond attempting to rescue occupants from a vehicle that was sinking. Without hesitation, after opening a line of communication with Orange County Fire Rescue, both honorees removed their duty gear and got into the water. Swimming 40 feet from shore, both dove down to search for occupants. Master Deputy Williams reached through the rear window and pulled a female victim to shore for medical attention before swimming back to the vehicle to locate a male victim still inside. After bringing him ashore to receive medical attention, they learned a child may still be in the car. Master Deputy Williams went back to the vehicle with Orange County Fire Rescue divers to assist with the search until it was determined that there were no other occupants. Unfortunately, the male driver could not be revived, and the female passenger did pass away at the hospital. Both Corporal Monreal and Master Deputy Williams displayed an exceptional level of bravery and courage by risking their own lives in an attempt to save others. It is my privilege to award each of them with the Heroism Law Enforcement Award. Today's next honoree in the Hospitality Security Life-Saving category is Captain Brandon Connors from the Mall at Millennia. On June 13th, loss prevention officers from Neiman Marcus reported to mall security that the subject was lying in the parking lot outside of the store. Security units responded and notified the fire department. Upon arrival, Captain Brandon Connors observed an unresponsive male who was not breathing, had no pulse, basically collapsed right there. Chest compressions were being administered by a bystander in an attempt to revive the patient, but he remained unresponsive. Captain Connors took over and continued compressions for 5 minutes until the arrival of the Orlando Fire Department. An AED was utilized, and after several shocks, paramedics were able to obtain a pulse. The patient was transported to the hospital and made a full recovery. Captain Connors' actions continued vital blood flow to the patient until medical personnel arrived. After his full recovery, the patient sent Captain Connors a thank you video via Facebook. Today, we are honored to give our thanks to Captain Brandon Connors and present him with the Hospitality Life-Saving Award. Our fourth honorees, Captain Troy Broadway and Lieutenant Kevin Soderberg from the Orange County Fire Rescue Department, are accepting a life-saving award in the category of Fire Rescue EMS. In the early morning hours of March 18th, the units were dispatched to a vehicle completely submerged in water. Unable to confirm if there were still occupants in the car, Captain Broadway, a certified rescue diver, immediately entered the water without any diving gear and swam towards the vehicle. Captain Broadway broke a window and determined the interior had already filled with water. During this time, Lieutenant Soderberg entered the water in full dive gear. With the information gathered from Captain Broadway, he was able to locate the victim and pull him to safety. Crews immediately began life-saving efforts and were able to regain a pulse en route to the hospital. Rescuers estimate that the driver had been in that vehicle underwater for approximately 11 minutes. Due to the quick response of both Captain Broadway and Lieutenant Soderberg, the driver was taken to the hospital and was released months later into his family's care. For their extraordinary efforts, it is my honor to award Captain Troy Broadway and Lieutenant Kevin Soderberg with the Life-Saving Fire Rescue EMS Award. Today's final honorees are Sergeant Marcus Bryan and Sergeant Grattan Hayward of the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. On June 27th, the Sheriff's Office received a call of a vehicle that had driven off of the roadway into a retention pond. Sergeant Bryan and Sergeant Hayward were first to arrive on the scene. Before entering the water, they observed the front half of the car was submerged and only the rear windows of the SUV were above the water. Without hesitation, both of them jumped into the murky water and began swimming out to the vehicle. Upon arrival, Sergeant Hayward broke the rear driver's side window, which caused water to enter and the vehicle to sink a little further. Due to the darkness, Sergeant Bryan searched blindly in the back seat in an attempt to locate any occupants, while Sergeant Hayward broke the driver's side front window. Sergeant Hayward swam into the vehicle through the broken window, while Sergeant Bryan held onto his legs. Through this action, he was able to locate one female victim inside who had become lodged on the passenger side floorboard. Sergeant Hayward was able to free the driver and begin removing her from the floorboard. Sergeant Bryan pulled both Sergeant Hayward and the female driver to the surface and began swimming to shore, where other deputies assisted with pulling her out of the water. Upon reaching the shore, they observed that the vehicle had sunk out of sight in approximately 30 feet of water. The driver was transported to the hospital, where she was admitted for non-life-threatening injuries. It was later determined that the victim drove her vehicle into the retention pond in an attempt to take her own life. Sergeant Bryan's and Sergeant Hayward's quick actions kept the victim from suffering serious injury or death. For this reason, it is my privilege to present Sergeant Grattan Hayward and Sergeant Marcus Bryan with the Life-Saving Law Enforcement Award. These stories of bravery and heroism highlight how fortunate Central Florida residents and visitors are to have such fearless men and women serving as first responders that go above and beyond every day. It is also a reminder us to be careful around water. Wow. As we begin to close today's program, we'd like to take a moment to thank John McCracken of the Marriott Village Orlando and Bruce McDonald of the Hyatt Regency Orlando International Airport, our co-chairman of the Patriot Day Planning Committee. We'd also like to thank the members of the Planning Committee for their efforts. Without their dedication and support, this event would not be possible. May I please ask committee members present this morning to stand and be recognized. Now let us thank Chris Muller, Teresa Bernstein, Gabby Guerrero, and the staff here at the Hilton Orlando for hosting this important community event. Once again, please help me in thanking the following companies for their in-kind contributions: Britt Runyon Studios, Adalyn Electronical Exhibition Services, Minuteman Press, the Orlando Business Journal, PSAV, and Town Park, today's parking sponsor. Additionally, please allow me to thank Orange TV for recording this morning's keynote presentation. For your information, Orange TV will be broadcasting a compilation of this year's keynote presentation. Lastly, once again, please join us in thanking our presenting sponsor, Radio 1 Motorola Solutions, for their continued support of this event. And to close, I would like to re-invite Rich Maladecki back to the podium for our closing ceremony.
We are most fortunate in this community to have so many community assets, and I want to recognize, and I hope you will join me in recognizing the professionalism that Jim Payne brings to this very distinguished program. So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the CFHLA board, we have a small gift for Jim, and let us thank him for his service this morning to this program. Jim. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let us never forget those individuals who were lost or were injured in the tragic events of 2001.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our program. Thank you for your attendance. Let us never forget.